Yeesh. Well, the Sacramento Kings are still winless in the preseason after their beat down at the hands of the Los Angeles Clippers. But the good news is at least we have the Keegan Murray contract extension to talk about right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all offseason and soon to be all regular season long. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News, recording my second podcast of the day because, man, was it a busy day here in Kings land. Early in the day, in the morning, we find out the Sacramento Kings and Russell Westbrook have finally agreed to a deal that we've heard so much about really since the end of June. That deal finally got done. Recorded a podcast after that, reacting to that. A few hours later, it was announced that the Sacramento Kings and Keegan Murray had agreed to a 5-year, $140 million contract extension. So we're going to start with that in today's podcast, and I'm going to take my time before I have to talk about this dud of a Kings game tonight against the Clippers. Not the greatest way to end what was ultimately a pretty exciting day for the Sacramento Kings. Keegan Murray's deal, like I said, a 5-year, $140 million contract extension, a rookie scale extension. Check this out. You and I both know, if you've been covering the Kings or following the Kings for any extended period of time, you know it's a bigger deal than it should be when the Sacramento Kings signed their draft picks to second contracts. It's happened more recently, thank goodness. But over the last 2 decades, far more often than not, whoever the Kings draft, they don't typically make it to a second contract. So there's reason for that. That's a reason enough alone to celebrate, to some extent, this Keegan Murray deal getting done. A deal that equates to $28 million per year. That number surprised me a little bit. Because remember earlier in the offseason, Jabari Smith Jr. of the Houston Rockets signed for a deal in the low 20s. And I wasn't sure if that was going to set the market. Is Keegan Murray a better player than Jabari Smith Jr.? I guess that's up for debate. How much more important is Keegan Murray to the future of the Sacramento Kings that Jabari Smith Jr. is to the Houston Rockets, a team that is believed to be better, known to be better, expected to be better? And maybe it's because you're in Sacramento that you have to pay a little bit extra. I don't know, but a $28 million price tag, I thought maybe Keegan could get into the mid-20s. $28 million is a substantial amount of money. Now, Keegan Murray, specifically Keegan Murray's agent in his camp, I'm sure did a phenomenal job leveraging the situation that the Sacramento Kings are in. Look, I know my client's hurt right now, but as we can clearly see, you got nobody here to replace him. So if you don't give my client what we're looking for, what we believe we should get, then you can't really run the risk of losing him, can you? Now, I don't think there was ever too much risk of the Kings losing Keegan Murray if they didn't agree to a contract extension before the season started. It would have been a conversation point all season long, and then Keegan would have hit restricted free agency, and more than likely a team would have offered him a deal, probably around the same amount of money the Kings would have matched, and it just would have been a whole lot to do about nothing and would have dragged on. And that's why I'm glad that the Kings got this done. I'm glad that this doesn't have to be a storyline. This doesn't have to be a conversation this season. Keegan is extended. He's here for the long haul. We don't know what the heck the long haul is here in Sacramento. Who knows what this team is going to look like at the end of that contract? Hell, we don't even know what this team's going to look like year 3 of that contract. Hopefully the books are in a better situation. That's when Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan's deals would come off the books, would expire. So we don't know what the future holds, but it's safe to say the Kings believe and want Keegan Murray to be a part of that future. They need him to be a part of that future. So I'm glad they got this deal done. I'm glad it doesn't have to be a conversation at any point this season beyond today. I think it's something worth celebrating. It's something that's exciting. And before the game tonight, now the Keegan Murray deal isn't official yet. Like, it hasn't been officially announced. Papers have not been officially signed, or from what I understand. And it's the same thing with the Russell Westbrook agreement. It's not official yet. So before the game, Doug Christie couldn't comment on the extension and on Russell Westbrook's new deal. But we found a way to work around it a little bit, and Doug Christie commented on Keegan Murray as a player and Russell Westbrook as a player. And I thought you should hear that before we get into this basketball game.
You know, I can't speak on anything that isn't obviously totally done, but I think you guys know how I feel about Keegan. Incredibly versatile player. Love him as a person. Ever since just watching him grow up as a young man and watching his game continue to blossom from the time I took over, just trying to put, air underneath his wings and let him know that he's highly valued, and we truly, truly appreciate him here. So I'll speak on Keegan. I won't speak about that.
Well, is it possible that you can speak on Russell Westbrook as a player?
As a player, been a Russell Westbrook fan for a long time. Even when I was on radio, I used to take a lot of hits because people would call in and, they would be saying whatever, and I was like, you guys just don't understand basketball. His numbers and the things that he's been able to do in this league, I think, speak to them for themselves. A Hall of Famer. One of the greatest attributes when I watch him is the intensity at which he plays with and the effort and what he brings to the game. I truly appreciate it. So to Russell as a player until that,
Well, even though Keegan Murray got extended, as we know, he was not available in this game, out the next 4 to 6 weeks with his left thumb injury that required surgery. Keegan was in a sling. He was in a sling on the bench. I was like, my son just broke his arm and he was in a sling. That makes a little more sense for a broken arm. I don't know you needed a sling for a thumb injury, but I'm not a doctor, so whatever. Keegan was rocking it. He looked great, and I'm glad he was here. But, of course, we were very curious about, hey, with Keegan out, like, what's Doug thinking? Who's he going to start? I think he ended up going kind of the expected route, I guess, and he ended up starting Dario Saric. Saric scored 5 points in this game, hit a 3. There was nothing that Saric did that really stood out by any means, but I guess he deserves credit because he was part of the starting unit that looked good. Like, the way the Kings started this game was solid. It was the best the starters have looked together. Dario Saric was a part of that because of his shooting ability. He does help space the floor, so it made sense, at least in that sense, that he was out there. Do I think Saric has done enough to win that job temporarily while Keegan Murray's gone? No. Again, there's not a lot that Saric did that actually stood out to me, but he didn't get in the way, and I guess that's a positive. I liked the start to the game for the Kings starters. I really liked the two-man game that we were seeing between Domantas Sabonis and Zach LaVine. Really liked it. You could tell it was an emphasis. The two of them were trying to play together, play off of each other. Some really good pick and roll moments between the two. They both combined for 28 points in this game. They also combined for 11 assists. A lot of them were to each other. That was the first time that we've seen a volume of two-man game between those two. I still would love to see DeMar DeRozan get some of that two-man game with Domantas Sabonis a little bit, but maybe it's just not meant to be. Maybe DeMar and Domas just don't want to play together that way, or they don't like playing together that way, or whatever. But LaVine and Sabonis showed off a lot of that two-man game potential tonight, and I thought it looked really good. Sabonis also had 14 rebounds in this game in addition to the numbers that he put up. But, of course, there's always a but. Domantas Sabonis exited this game in the third quarter with a hamstring injury. We don't know the severity of the injury. They didn't tell us anything after the game because nobody knew anything about it. Zach LaVine didn't know anything about it. Doug Christie didn't know anything about it. Just like the Keegan Murray thumb injury, we thought, hey, it's just this little thing, and he's out for the rest of the game, erring on the side of caution, blah, blah, blah. And then, bam, we got the news that he's out 4 to 6 weeks. Domas has been known in his time here in Sacramento for playing through injuries, playing banged up. and I hope he's going to be okay. Maybe he doesn't have to play in the preseason finale against the Lakers on Friday, but I hope he's good to go for Wednesday's game against the Phoenix Suns. We have no indication, no word on how severe the injury is. As soon as I get any indication or any word, I will share that with you here on Locked On Kings. You can follow me on Twitter at MattGeorgeSack to find instant updates there when we get that information. I'm just hoping and praying that tomorrow we don't get another dose of bad news injury-wise for the Kings, because they quite literally cannot afford to lose anybody else. We'll get into that more a little bit later on. I will say, though, the Kings' two-man game with Sabonis and Levine, or Sabonis and everybody, got a little predictable. The Clippers realized that the Kings weren't hitting shots. Like Sacramento, that starting unit was doing a really good job generating good looks. They just weren't falling. And so the Clippers started daring the Kings to keep shooting those shots, and you could see they were collapsing every time Domantas Sabonis was trying to roll to the basket. So the Kings were trying to thread the needle through traffic to get him the ball. So the Clippers did a good job taking advantage of that. I thought Zach LaVine was really, really solid again in this game. Look, Levine's been the biggest bright spot for me in this preseason, and it's not particularly close. He's been shooting the ball well, showing that offensive leadership that the Kings need from him as just a pure scorer. But also, I have not seen someone show more buy-in and improvement on the defensive end of the floor than Zach LaVine. Has he been a lockdown defender? No. He got cooked a couple of times by Kawhi Leonard in this game, as you would expect him to. But Zach has done a great job throughout preseason, throughout training camp, of playing the passing lanes, creating steals. He got a steal in this game, just deflecting passes, being more disruptive, being more involved. I've noticed more defensive involvement from Zach LaVine in the 2 weeks since media day than I did at any point over the month or however long he was here at the end of last season. I'm seeing buy-in from Zach LaVine, so I'm very encouraged by that. The Kings were up 16-10 when the bench came in. Now, technically, there was a sub before that. Isaac Jones came in to replace Dario Saric, and the Kings got a look at Isaac Jones a little bit in that spot. Jones did hit a corner three, which is nice to see, but like Saric, he didn't really do anything to stand out. But at that point, then, like, Clifford came into the game, and the Kings brought their bench unit in. The Kings were up 16-10 at that point. And that's where everything fell apart. We'll get into how poorly the second unit played, how this game got out of control, and how the Kings never truly recovered. That's all coming up in just a second. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, you pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. There are so many amazing ways to play on FanDuel, whether you are a maniac that loves to put together these massive parlays that have very low chance of hitting, but if they do hit, you get some massive paydays, and you love sweating out different bets at the same time. If you like player props, there's so many fun player props to play with on FanDuel. Plus, if you're watching a game live and following it closely, you can follow the live betting lines to jump in on the action at any time. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats like me, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. So the Kings are up 16-10. The ball is moving. The starters look solid. They're generating good looks. They're not falling, but they're still having the lead. They're playing decent defense. The Clippers aren't shooting the ball well, and then the bench comes in. Not just the Kings bench that struggled, but the incredibly deep Los Angeles Clippers bench. This team might be old, but they are deep. I mean, a lot of talent on this Clippers roster. In particular, Chris Paul and especially Brook Lopez came into the game off the bench and took over this game. Brook Lopez came in, knocks down 3 straight threes. Just some of them wide open on pick and pops. Some of them, there was a decent hand in his face, but he's 7'1" and he doesn't care. If I am Maxime Reynaud, I know I want to learn from Domantas Sabonis and of course and all the guys around you, but if I am Maxime Reynaud, I am staring at Brook Lopez and going, that is how I have a 10-plus year career in the NBA. 7'1", protects the rim, constantly making players think twice about attacking the basket when Brooke Lopez is around, then spaces the floor and is a maniac with pick and pops, knocks down threes from all angles. And remember, Brooke Lopez is one of the best stories in the NBA in terms of how he has adapted to the way the game is adapted. Go back, if you're not familiar with Brooke Lopez's game when he was with the Nets, the New Jersey Nets, he was a post machine. He was one of the best post centers in the league, period. And now he's completely changed his game to be a pick and pop three-point specialist center that protects the rim as well as anybody in this league. Maxime Reynaud, pay attention. If you can become that for the Sacramento Kings or any team in the NBA, if you can become 75% of that, you're going to have a very long and very successful career in the league. That is who I want Maxime Reynaud to be. That's who the Kings need Maxime Reynaud to be. And I hope he can turn into that. So Brooke Lopez and Chris Paul come into the game and turn a 16-10 Kings lead into a 16-2 Clippers run for the rest of the quarter, including a buzzer beater three by Chris Paul to end the quarter. At that point, Kings fell behind. Kings really had no chance. Fell behind by as many as 29 points in this game. Now, I don't know about you, but it is pretty clear Malik Monk did not play in this game because of illness. It's pretty clear to me how essential Malik Monk is to this team. And it was clear that the Kings were trying to move on from him or were using him and involving him in a lot of trade conversations and trade rumors over the course of the offseason. Based off of how they look without him in the second unit tonight, it's a pretty dang good thing that they didn't move on from him. He is essential to that second unit. I'm not saying if Malik Monk were playing that the way this game went out of control wouldn't have happened, but it certainly would have been a whole heck of a lot better. The offense completely fell apart for the Kings when Dennis Schroeder exited the game. You don't have a backup point guard. Another reason why Russell Westbrook is so essential. Again, I'm not saying if Russell Westbrook were in this game that the Kings would have won it and things wouldn't have fallen apart the way that they did. But as soon as Dennis Schroeder came out of the game, the Kings' offensive flow and rhythm, gone. Fell apart. Because they do not have a backup point guard. Keon Ellis got opportunity at the backup point guard spot. Wasn't good. He wasn't. Because it's not his natural position. It's not what he does. He can handle the ball a little bit, and you'd love for him to get better at that, of course. But Keon Ellis did not look comfortable one bit running the offense, and it did not go well. It did not work, period, end of story. Speaking of Keon Ellis, for the second game in a row, he barely played. He played 8 minutes in this game. I'm going to say something that's going to make you upset, and I apologize, but I also kind of don't apologize. I thought that was Mike Brown's fault. I thought it was a Mike Brown thing. Mike Brown's the only one not playing Keon Ellis. 2 games in a row where Keon Ellis only plays 8 minutes or around that. Now, again, I am hoping, like I said during the Portland game, that the reason for this is because Doug knows exactly who Keon is and how he works as a versatile player in multiple different lineups, so he doesn't have to see looks in preseason because he knows who Keon is. He'd rather use that time for Devin Carter, who didn't play till the second half of this game, or give more opportunity to Nick Clifford, who had a solid game. We'll talk about him later on. I hope that's the reasoning. But 2 games in a row where Keon Ellis barely plays, especially in a game where you don't have Malik Monk because of illness. I'm not panicking about it yet. I don't think there's any reason to freak out about it yet or pay too much attention to it yet, but it's on my radar. And I'm just saying, if this continues, if this becomes a trend, I'm not saying I want you to go at Doug Christie the same way you went at Mike Brown. But it sure would be interesting, wouldn't it? Again, just something to keep an eye on. Look, I'm really concerned about this second unit. I already started feeling that way a little bit, even with Malik Monk here and Russell Westbrook here. I just don't know how good they're going to be. I can see a lot of what happened tonight. The start of the game, the first 7-8 minutes being okay, and then the bench comes in and it just kind of gets out of hand. And maybe tonight's a bad example because of how deep the Los Angeles Clippers are, but depth is so unbelievably important in the NBA today. The Oklahoma City Thunder and Indiana Pacers made the NBA Finals a big reason for that was because of their depth. Every team took note of that. Every team is prioritizing depth. Like the Kings are going to have to deal with really good benches from really good teams on a fairly nightly basis this season. If the bench isn't ready, they will fall behind, and the starters might not be able to catch up unless shots are falling at a pretty extreme rate. I'm really concerned about the bench. And look, I'm not hitting the doom and gloom button yet or anything. I know some of you already are. That's fine. This Kings team already clearly has shown that they weren't ready, right? Like, they've made progress in some areas. Some things have looked better. I still have not seen more than glimpses of this new identity and new culture they're trying to establish. I haven't seen it much. They won me over with how they were practicing and the glimpses that I saw during training camp and the things that they were saying in training camp. But now I've gotten 3 games of context. I don't see it. I don't believe it yet. They got a long way to go. They already had a long way to go. Now with Keegan Murray's injury and potentially a Sabonis injury, God, I hope it's not one, but potentially, this Kings team is in trouble. They're in trouble. They have one more preseason game against the Lakers on Friday. That game doesn't count either, so I guess who cares? But that's the last time it don't count. A week from tonight, the Kings are going to be playing a regular season game. They're opening up in Phoenix. It's a winnable game, but the Phoenix Suns absolutely can beat the Sacramento Kings if they look like this. Then the Kings open up their home schedule next Friday against the team that I'm expecting to be the worst in the NBA, the Utah Jazz. The Kings better win that game, or you best believe there's going to be panic buttons being hit. And then after that, the schedule gets awful. So I'm not expecting the Kings to look 1,000% better or way different by Friday or by next week, but they got to start showing some signs of improvement and signs of life, because this beginning of this schedule is not going to wait for them. The first 2 games, they might be able to get away with it. Game 3 and beyond, they're going to get beaten up. And like I'm saying, if Keegan Murray misses 12, 15, 17 games, he might come back and the Kings are already in so deep of a hole that even if they start to figure things out, they really can't make up the ground they need to. Ugh. Scary, scary, scary. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by Wayfair. The holidays are going to be here before you know it, which is exciting, but getting your home ready for those holidays and guests and celebrations can feel like a lot. Maybe you need a refresh of your room, your silverware. You need new silverware. You could use new bedding for the guests that are staying over. Wayfair is everything that you need to get your home holiday ready, from Christmas trees to wreaths to bedding, cookware, and outdoor inflatables. It's your one-stop shop for every single room in and outside of the house. Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection for every style and budget, and with free and easy delivery, even the big stuff, you can get everything that you need without the hassle of huge deliveries. I love how easy it is to find the pieces that both I and my wife like. They have categorization of not just the certain like pieces of furniture you need, but the style that you need, so you can look exactly for what you are trying to find. Checkout is a breeze too. You find what you want, you click on it, check it out, and again, it is delivered right to you. Get organized, refreshed, and ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. And like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Game Time. Basketball season is nearly here. We're so close, and nothing beats being in the arena for these opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. You can use Game Time to grab seats for the home opener on Friday against the Utah Jazz, and it couldn't have been simpler. You can get them in minutes. And I'll give you a little tip. The closer you actually wait until game day, the better the prices are going to be. You can even buy tickets last minute for the best prices you're going to find anywhere. There are no hidden fees. You know exactly what you're going to pay. You click on the tickets. They say $100 for 2 lower bowl seats, and you're paying $100. No surprise, $20 to $30 fees at the last stage of checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Wrapping up on a bit of a positive, I thought Nick Clifford looked really good in this game. Had some really solid moments. Had 19 points, 8 of 13 from the field, 3 rebounds, 1 steal. I really like the aggression that we're seeing from Nick. Every single preseason game, you could just tell, getting more and more comfortable. And what I like is earlier in the preseason, it was, okay, now he's coming into his own when the game is like in garbage time and he's playing as one of the top guys on kind of an end of bench unit. But I like that we were seeing Nick Clifford playing a lot with the top guys and playing aggressively with the top guys. Nick also got some opportunity defensively to guard some superstars. Guarded James Harden, had a couple times where he fouled James Harden because he tried to reach in, and James is going to make you pay for that. One of the hardest guys to guard, but Nick is learning by example because especially with Keegan Murray out, the Kings are going to need Nick Clifford to take on a lot of those defensive responsibilities over the first few weeks of the season. He also spent some time guarding CP3 and Kawhi Leonard. Good luck, Nick. That's all I have to say. I thought he did good at times, but did get into a little bit of foul trouble. I still think he deserves a shot to start. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's once again Dario Saric or Isaac Jones in Game 4 of the preseason in LA. Like, I get it for the size standpoint, having a 6'10 guy out there versus 2 guys that are 6'6", a 6'5", and then a 6'2 or 6'3", whatever Dennis Schroeder is. Like, I understand how small that is and how concerning that'll be. But I still think Nick Clifford deserves a chance to start. Although, I will say this, after everything that I've seen with the second unit and what we talked about last segment about the second unit, the Kings, quite frankly, might not be able to afford not having Nick Clifford in the second unit. Like, Nick might become quickly one of the most important players and one of the most important scorers in that second unit based off of how this second unit has been playing so far. Maybe not once Monk gets back and Russell Westbrook comes in. Maybe it'll be a little bit better. But Nick might be essential very quickly with that second unit, so maybe that's why he's not getting the opportunity to start. I still would like to see it. Like, okay, maybe you start Dario Saric and then sub him out at the 4-minute mark and bring Nick in and try to go small and just see what it looks like. But I trust Doug Christie. If he doesn't like that, he doesn't do it. There's a reason for it. I'm just curious. That's just something I would like to see. Final thing I want to talk about. 2 preseason games, and the crowd in terms of the amount of people here was great. There were 16,000 people here tonight in the Golden One Center for a preseason game. Kings-Clippers. This is not at all a gripe or shot at them in the slightest. They were a non-factor. Game 1 versus the Raptors, Game 3 tonight versus the Clippers. Non-factor. Why? Because the team has given them almost nothing to cheer about. The loudest this building got was in Game 1 against the Raptors when the end-of-bench guys came in and hustled and put together a little bit of a run to make it a game towards the end. That was the loudest this building got, and it got pretty loud. But the reason why I bring this up is this. One of the worst things that can happen for this Kings organization this season is for this crowd to get indifferent. I already have heard so many stories, so many of you reaching out to me going, Matt, I did not renew my season tickets this year. They raised the prices, and I don't believe in this product. I don't believe this team is going in the right direction. I do not know what this team is doing right now. I'm not paying my hard-earned money to go and see them. I don't blame you. I'm expecting it to be sold out against the Utah Jazz on opening night. I'm expecting that Sunday's game against the Los Angeles Lakers to be sold out. I know a lot of Laker fans are going to be here, and season ticket holders, you're probably going to recoup some of your money by selling them to Lakers fans. I don't blame you. But if this, what we're seeing, carries into December and beyond, I'm worried about the people that are going to show up, how many people are going to show up. I'm worried about the Kings not really having a home court advantage because the team isn't giving them anything to cheer for. The worst thing that can happen for this organization, truly, and I'm not worried about the amount of money in Vivek's pocket because of ticket sales. I'm worried just about indifference. Of course, I'm worried about that selfishly from my standpoint, too, because if fans are indifferent about this team, that means they're probably not listening to Locked On Kings. They're not as dialed into this team as they should be. And I would not blame anybody one bit for checking out on that we've seen 3 times this preseason, for checking out on that by December or January, because it's not good. I have no reason to believe it's going to be any better. There's nothing for me to be excited about in the future, so I'm going to pay loose attention on my phone, and that'll be it. Again, I hope that you stay locked into the Kings, and I hope that you continue to listen to the Locked On Kings podcast. I'd love to get through the ups and downs with you. But indifference Like the one of the biggest strengths of this city is how much this fan base loves and supports this team through thick and thin. And if you find a way to turn this fan base off or make this fan base just show up and go through the motions, but they're kind of, for lack of a better term, like zombified because they don't really believe or trust in this team, that might be rock bottom for this organization to experience this year. Fans not caring. I hope we don't get to that point, but I don't know. I've experienced 2 games now in the Golden One Center with this team. Granted, they're preseason games, I understand, but 2 games where the crowds were good and the energy was not there because there was nothing to really be energetic about. Would love to hear your thoughts on the Keegan Murray contract extension, your thoughts on tonight's game, what you want to see on the final preseason game on Friday, how you're feeling, I guess, going into next season, which is a week away. A week away. I wish I was more excited than I was hearing that, but it's coming up quick. Let me hear your thoughts. At Matt George Sack on Twitter. You can email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, or feel free to leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Appreciate your support as always. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.